Is PC culture destroying freedom of speech?
Well, if you consider getting rogered up the ass by an 8-foot-long horsecock being destroyed, then yes.
Nope.
Okay, clearly you and I are using very different versions of the English language here. I'd ask if you're going to provide any intelligent or insightful reasonings as to this claim, but I already know that I would be severely disappointed. Hello, my freaky little darlings, I am Alzael, patriarchal number 149775518, Token Division, and I have arrived upon YouTube to metaphorically pump the chemical toilet once again. Alright, let's do this shit. Why the fuck does MTV have news? Why is a station geared towards loser suburban white tweens trying to masquerade itself as a news outlet? Especially on complex social issues. What, finally got tired of trying to pretend that you're a music station? Don't you have enough Bon Jovi and hip-hop videos to fill up your days already? How did we go from getting our news and social commentary from the news outlets that gave us Dan Rather, Walter Cronkite, and Christopher Hitchens, to the people who gave us Punk'd, Legally Blonde the Musical, and Beavis and Butthead? Though, in retrospect, one can certainly see how a pedigree like this could easily breed, or inbreed as is the case, results like this.
From YouTube comments to presidential candidates, it seems a lot of people think freedom of speech is under attack.
Fake air quotes. That pretty much sets the tone for this, doesn't it?
And who, might I ask, is to blame? The PC culture.
You people really think that kind of stuff is funny, don't you? It's not funny. It just makes you look childish and desperate because you have no actual point to make and can only misrepresent or be dismissive to the other side. Which, by the way, since you yourself just had to bleep out the word damn, point goes to my team. Do you actually understand what the other side is saying at all?
If you've ever called out racism, sexism, ableism, or any other oppressivism, you've probably been accused of being too PC.
I could while away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the rain.
PC is, of course, short for politically correct. Political correctness is avoiding words or behaviors that exclude, marginalize, or insult groups of people who are socially disadvantaged or discriminated against.
That's not what politically correct means. Like, at all. You just made that up. But it's interesting that you added that qualifier on there at the end. It only applies to people who are socially disadvantaged. Tell me, who decides who is socially disadvantaged and who isn't? Because it seems to me as though you have potentially quite the racket here. You have this movement that is supposedly dedicated towards defending and protecting marginalized people, and, helping the disadvantaged. And you're also the sole arbiters of who is and is not disadvantaged. Now, it occurs to me that if one were so inclined, that this would be an excellent way to marginalize and discriminate against another group, while still allowing your side to feel self-righteously vindicated. After all, if all that matters is the marginalized people, then you can pretty much do what you want to the unmarginalized group. Right? Of course, you're now turning said unmarginalized group into a marginalized group, which means that they will soon have all the justification that they need to moderate your speech and silence you, and you won't really have a leg to stand on when it's your rights that they're attacking. But let's be honest, that's probably more thought into this than you've actually expended on anything beyond whether you should get a double latte at Starbucks or the soy non-fat cappuccino. But let's ignore that for a moment and focus on this.
Political correctness is avoiding words or behaviors that exclude, marginalize, or insult groups of people who are socially disadvantaged or discriminated against. Political correctness is avoiding words or behaviors that
So, in other words, you admit that political correctness involves limiting speech and expression. You literally just said that. It is avoiding words and behaviors based on the whims of others. Like, not even 30 seconds, and you are completely contradicting the central premise of your video. I know I keep asking this, but it always seems to bear repeating. do you people ever actually listen to yourselves? Because you people remind me of those little doll toys we had as kids, with that little pull string on the back and you pull it and it made sounds. Yeah, you guys are like that. You're like these little toy dolls with like little string on the back, and all you gotta do is pull it and you immediately go,
"Oh, kill the white man, kill the white man."
Basically, treating people with respect. Now, if you ask me, that doesn't sound like a bad thing.
People of the particular class that you like, you mean treat them with respect. And by respect, you mean deference. That's what it means when you refrain from saying certain things because someone else might be offended or not like it. That's not showing them respect, it's showing them deference. Why do you people hate the English language so much? Or is it really that you just can't go like more than 5 seconds without telling a blatant, bald-faced lie? Do you just not know what the words you're using mean? I mean, there's doublethink, and then there's just being a purebred cultic hate-monger.
But a recent poll by Fairleigh Dickinson University found that 68% of Americans and 81% of Republicans agreed that a big problem this country has is being politically correct. Even 62% of Democrats polled agreed that being PC was getting out of hand.
So the vast majority of people disagree with you and think that you're racist, sexist, fascist. The majority of people, even in our heavily divided and fractured Western society, a society of dozens, if not hundreds, of different religions, ethnicities, philosophies, political affiliations, different sexual orientations, ages, and hobbies. And the majority of all of these groups of people have managed to come to a state of agreement on giving you and yours the most epic middle finger in the history of gender and race relations. And you actually think that you're the ones on the moral high ground regarding diversity and racial tolerance. Franceska, didn't Robert Downey and Ben Stiller teach you anything? You never go full retard.
For these folks, political correctness is synonymous with weakness or being overly sensitive.
By for these folks, you mean the vast majority of the population. I mention this because you're kind of sounding awfully dismissive of that fact.
Similar to the new term social justice warrior, calling someone PC is a way to derail and dismiss conversations about inequality.
Hey, you know what disrails a conversation? Calling something or someone sexist or racist when it has nothing to do with racism or sexism at all. Such as, say, in a discussion about refugees and immigration reform, branding the other side as racist for even suggesting that it should be tightly regulated. Screaming for muscle when a member of the press is simply trying to get a shot on public school property. You know what derails a conversation? Shit like this.
Okay, PC police, you're just offended by everything.
Normally I would say that doing this sort of thing makes her look stupid, but in this case it really doesn't. It makes her look ugly. And not just in terms of attractiveness, although it doesn't help that either. I mean, it makes her look unpleasant, slimy, and foul. In fact, a lot of her facial expressions do that. Normally I would say that she's just trying to do that funny, snark, dismissive thing that feminists always try to do for the young crowd, and failing at it miserably. Or, as I call it, the Lacey Green approach. But it's not even coming across like that, it's just ugly. I really can't think of another word for it, but with someone like Lacey, it's painful and stupid, but you can mock it. With this woman, it just makes you feel unclean. I think it's because a social justice warrior like Lacey is motivated mostly by her own stupidity. But this one gives off an aura of actual malice. Like she knows the damage she's causing and is actually enjoying it. It's actually kind of hard to be as flippant as I normally would be, because it's so unpleasant to listen to this woman. She's ugly.
The term PC is almost always used as an insult.
There's a reason for that.
While it's been around for a while, it gained popularity in the 80s when it caught on with conservatives, not liberals.
Again, untrue. The term politically correct actually dates back to the late 18th century initially. The first usage that I'm aware of was in the magazine The U.S. Republic in 1793, At that point, the term literally meant simply to be in line with the current political administration and their set of thoughts, to literally be politically correct. Now, its more widespread use, according to the International Encyclopedia of the Social Sciences, was in Russia after the Bolshevik Revolution, and it was used by members of the Communist Party. The term was used to refer to how strongly the person's thoughts and opinions matched up with the official party line from Moscow. The kind of person who would go far in Stalinist Russia. They would have to be politically correct, or the government would make them disappear in the middle of the night, which was no easy task, as the political stance of the Kremlin pretty much just shifted quickly and fluidly with personal interest and not really any form of coherent ideology. Now, its first English modern usage was among liberals who used it as a way of self-effacingly poking jabs at themselves. To quote Melanie Huff, Assistant Dean of Students at the Columbia Graduate School of Journalism, "Back in the late 80s when I was in grad school, I ran with an unabashedly liberal crowd, whose favorite acronym was PC for politically correct. I do not know when the term was coined, but it felt fresh and exciting. If we had had a mission statement, it would have been to render the world more PC. We devoted much time and intellectual energy to deconstructing all that we encountered for white, male, wealthy, heterocentric exclusivity. PC summed up in 2 easy letters everything in which we believed. Our zealousness was fueled in large part by anger at the AIDS epidemic. Several of my friends were active in ACT UP. AIDS, and the world's reaction to it, cast a bright light on many of the decidedly un-PC premises still in place in spite of the civil rights, women's rights, and gay rights victories that had been achieved at that time. The mood then was to view political correctness not as a long-range goal to be achieved through education, but as a concept whose time had come and whose immediate implementation was imperative. People were dying. They were not wrong, and ACT UP and other activists of that time achieved a great deal. But it is perhaps that urgency and sense of rigid orthodoxy, you are with us or against us, that made the term suspect. In disallowing discourse and seeming to attack those who didn't subscribe, the mission was undermined. Looking back, I think that is how the term devolved. While the underlying beliefs of the PC doctrine are absolutely something to which to aspire, the term is undeniably tainted, and at this point likely counterproductive to a dialogue that can result in substantive positive change. I understand that being political can be noble. It is perhaps the word correct that is more problematic. Correct is understood to be the opposite of wrong. It is a fixed notion, perhaps with a new term that isn't so easily perceived as accusatory, politically sensitive, politically inclusive. Anyways, it was in the 90s when the right started adopting the term as an insult, and it became the pejorative that it is today. My point is that the term politically correct has its roots in communist totalitarianism, and is by its very nature restrictive. That's why the term correct is in there. You think that it is the only proper way, the true way, the one true faith if you prefer. And those who don't agree are heretics to be silenced, or dissidents to be dragged away in the night, smeared and slandered, their lives ruined. As Martin Latsis told his men during the Red Terror, "Do not look in the file of incriminating evidence to see whether or not the accused rose up against the Soviets with arms or words. Ask him instead to which class he belongs, what is his background, his education, his profession. These are the questions that will determine the fate of the accused. That is the meaning and essence of the Red Terror."
So why is being PC used as an insult? And what, if anything, does it have to do with free speech? Here's the thing. It's not just about hurt feelings. It's about calling out oppressive power structures, and that's where the misunderstanding comes in.
So, exactly what power structure were you guys calling out when you raked a scientist over the coals for wearing a t-shirt? What power structure exactly? And how did what you did do anything to change said structure? Answer me this, because I am genuinely curious. Especially the part about changing the power structure. How did making a grown man cry because of a fucking t-shirt help any marginalized person, anywhere? A man who had done something extremely significant in advancing human achievements on the eve of said achievement, which should have been a celebration of human ingenuity and skill. How the fucking hell did it fucking help a single fucking person, you fucking fuck? Sorry. A follow-up question. Which of your own oppressive power structures do you call out? Such as the aforementioned woman who called for muscle to throw out a reporter who had every legal right to be where he was. Did you call out the oppressive power structure that allowed a woman to essentially have a man's body be forcibly handled and relocated against his will? What about the oppressive power structure that caused Richard Dawkins to be banned? Or the oppressive power structures that exist in academia, especially in the social sciences, where there is, in normal college fields, a 5-to-1 ratio of liberal conservative professors, and 41-to-1 among the social sciences. A structure so oppressive that professors are terrified of their own students. Are you calling out that oppressive power structure? Or does it not fit your definition of oppressive when it's your own group that does it? I guess that's the advantage of getting to arbitrarily decide on your own terms, isn't it?
What's perceived as being too sensitive is usually someone speaking out against lazy, offensive language that doesn't usually get challenged. That's because the group of people that those words hurt historically haven't had the opportunities to have their voices heard.
Who the fuck cares about historically? That has nothing to do with now, and just how far back does that historically thing go? You realize that we black people haven't exactly been modeled humans throughout our history either. I mean, white people may have been slave owners, but let's not forget who sold them in the first place. What about the Irish? Where do they fit in? They've certainly been historically oppressed and marginalized. There are several points in the history of America where Irish was the new nigger. What about the Welsh? They've had it rough and been kept down at times. Christian, they've been historically oppressed at times. Are you out for protecting them? Again, who is deciding these metrics on who has been historically oppressed? And, more importantly, because this is the part that actually pisses me off, who the fuck gave your narrow Negro ass the authority to determine how historically oppressed black people are and what we should have done in our names about it? As far as I know, there was no meeting where a bunch of us niggers got together and made you and yours our official representatives.
And the people who call that being too PC are often in privileged positions and don't want to or haven't had to think about what they're saying, or the consequences that come with it.
Out of your PC group, how many people do you know who haven't gone to college? How many do you know that don't come from upper middle class to wealthy backgrounds, or aren't active celebrities of some kind in the entertainment industry? How many PC people do you know that are garbage men, or construction workers, or soldiers, or nannies, or secretaries? I'm guessing none. You know, I look at you and I see that nicely coiffed hair with those expensive extensions, perfectly manicured nails, well-plucked eyebrows, perfect teeth hiding inside that venom-spewing mouth of yours. It's kind of clear that you've almost certainly never had to work a hard day in your life. And right now you work in the entertainment industry, at a job that really requires nothing of you except looking sufficiently hip for the tweens. And of course you're a woman and black, so your ideology pretty much allows you to drink baby blood and still be innocent and kept down. Well, white baby blood. Preferably white male baby blood. So, what was that you said again?
And the people who call that being too PC are often in privileged positions and don't.
Yeah, you should probably just shut the fuck up.
You can't take away my freedom of speech just because you're offended. Well, yeah. In America, freedom of speech simply means the government cannot prohibit you from expressing yourself. It's why you can criticize Obama without being thrown in jail.
Oh, so now you want to go by the strict definition of terms. You know, this might have been at least semi-effective in some small way if it wasn't for Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn going to the UN and trying to get them to impose sanctions on the internet. Or the UN threatening the Japanese government with sanctions if they don't impose laws restricting anime and manga. Or hate speech laws in general. Or the Steph Guthrie debacle. Or the attempts in Europe to make criticizing feminism illegal, etc., etc., etc. Little tip for you there, Franceska. If you want to convince everyone that you're a virgin, You probably shouldn't be fucking the football team in the middle of the field.
But on an interpersonal level, freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences.
You see, a consequence of one's actions is a result that logically flows from the behavior to the inevitable result. For instance, if I sleep in the morning and don't wake up by the time the bus comes, the consequence of my action is that I will, of course, miss the bus. That would be the logical result based on my actions. A further logical result is that if that bus was supposed to take me to work and I miss it, then I will be late for work. See, these are consequences. They are natural results of my behavior and actions regarding the world. Now, if my boss docks my pay or fires me for my being late, that is not a consequence. That is a punishment, even if it might be a justified one. It is still a punishment and not a consequence. It is a deliberate infliction upon a person meant to cause suffering for a perceived transgression. To put it simply, in deference to you, Franceska, a consequence is a natural reaction. A punishment is something done or imposed upon you to achieve a certain result because you did something wrong, or at least something that somebody perceives as wrong. Now, if you want to take a psychological approach, and in terms of actually adjusting behavior, there's a slightly different definition of the two, but one that is still largely applicable here. Psychologists use consequences and punishments to describe a set of ways of approaching, educating, or conditioning people towards better behavior. Again, in simple terms, logical consequences are about preserving the dignity of the person while still informing them that their behavior is a problem. In other words, making clear that it is the behavior of the person that is wrong, not the person. Logical consequences are designed to make people examine their behavior and reevaluate their behavior while still respecting them. Punishments, on the other hand, are about shaming and causing harm to the person. It's a method of establishing control and compliance with rules. It's generally arbitrary and done as an expression of anger or desire for revenge. Most importantly, a punishment leaves the person focusing more on the punisher and less on the things that they did, while generally only serving to make them more angry, deceitful, and distrustful. Now, regardless of whether you want to go with the more psychological approach or the more basic etymological approach, the bottom line is that nothing you are doing is a consequence. You are acting with complete forethought and deliberation to inflict harm on people who are saying and doing things that you don't like. This is not a natural, logical result of one's actions, it is a deliberate attack. And the fact that you are about to stand there and smugly try to wrap yourself in a cloak of self-righteousness over this is one of the most sickening things I have ever seen.
Technically, no subject on Earth is off limits. You can say whatever you want, but in turn, people are allowed to respond however they want.
No, you duplicitous bitch. Bad liberal. You're a bad liberal. Don't think for a second that I didn't catch what you tried to do there. Yes, I am free to say whatever I want, but you are not free to respond however you want. You are free to say whatever you want in response to what I said, but that is not the same thing. You cannot, for example, commit violence upon me, hack my computer, spread my information around, break my windows, swat me, etc., etc. You cannot respond however you want, Franceska, and the switcheroo that you just tried to pull there is the problem. You recognize the ability and right to say whatever you want in criticism of someone's words or actions, but you don't stop there, do you? And you yourselves are the only ones allowed to determine what is racist, aren't you?
The fact that you can comment means you're not being censored.
Unless you're trying to comment on Feminist Frequency's channel, or if you post on Kotaku in Action, or on Twitter. Oh, and there's that whole UN thing again.
If you tell a crappy sexist joke and someone says, "Hey, that was a crappy sexist joke," that's freedom of speech. And if you post some racist bullshit on Facebook and your boss decides she doesn't want to employ people who spew racist bullshit on Facebook, you still have freedom of speech. And you're free to take that racist bullshit somewhere else.
Like if one of the execs at MTV wanted to fire you because people were complaining that you're a vile, effluent-spouting harpy. They would be totally within the right to do so, if they wanted to humiliate and degrade you in the media and public sphere for being a mindless bigot and demanding that you not be given a place to speak or be heard of, plastering your name all over the internet as a racist, and blocking you from Twitter and social media or internet forums because you might accidentally say something that others don't like, I'm guessing you have no problem with that. Might I remind you that you're in the vast minority as far as the public opinion is concerned. The only reason that these things haven't been done to you is because the majority actually believe in free speech, and, lucky for you, they actually stand by that principle. It's only through your crass exploitation of the morality of others that you're able to exist in the first place.
America.
Okay. I am going to say something that I thought I would never ever say about a real, non-fictional person. But this woman is evil. And I mean that in all complete seriousness. This woman is pure, festering evil. If you look closely at her face when she says this line, you can actually see the eyes of Beelzebub himself staring into your soul. Just for a brief moment, but it's there. This woman is talking about destroying the lives of people. In fact, not just people, but a lot of these men that she's talking about targeting, and we all know that she's only talking about white men. These men are likely fathers and husbands, providers for children, and not only is she talking about ruining their livelihoods, but ruining their ability to feed their own wives and children. And for what infractions would possibly justify this? Wearing the wrong shirt, saying the wrong word out of context, disagreeing with the wrong person. And she's not even treating it as though it's an unfortunate occurrence. She's not even bothering to pretend. Something like, well, it's a dirty job, but someone's got to do it, or I wish there was another way, but it must be done like this. No, she's happy about it. She jokes and laughs about it. It pleases her. I mean, you can't see it because it's cut off by the camera, but I'm certain that if you could tilt the camera down to what her hands are doing, she's stroking her clit right now in a pleasured thought of what she's doing. Consider for a moment what she has said in this video. Consider it. She placed herself and her clique as the ones who decide on who is to be protected from bad speech. She has placed herself as the one who decides which speech is bad, the one who decides how speech should be punished, and the only ones with the right to carry that punishment out. And she has done all of this Stalinist, totalitarian bullshit while wrapping herself up in a cloak of helping the oppressed and fighting for civil rights, equality, and human dignity. Do you hear that rumbling sound? That is the sound of Martin Luther King rotating in his grave.
PC culture, treating others with respect, social justice warriors, whatever you call it, isn't prohibiting anyone's freedom of speech.
Except for all the ways that you are. Just rewind this video if you want a refresher course. I'm not repeating myself again for the likes of you.
It's mainly about people standing up for themselves and asking to be spoken to and spoken about in a respectful way. And
who was standing up for themselves amidst any of this? Who was the person standing up for themselves when the scientist wore the shirt? He hadn't done anything to any person. He wore a shirt. How have any of these PC people who have taken action actually been affected themselves by the things they complained about? There is not one single honest thing you have said yet. You simply keep wrapping yourself in other people's issues and then say that it's about them while you're the one who gets to pass all the judgment. You're like a victimhood succubus or a leech, a parasite.
in fact, political correctness is expanding free speech.
Wait, what?
In fact, political correctness is expanding free speech.
Wait, what?
In fact, political correctness is expanding free speech.
Okay, I'm going to ask everyone to please turn their volume down for a minute because, just turn your volume down for a minute. Okay? Good. Fuck you, 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 fuck you! You've expanded free speech? Fuck you. Expanded free speech. Okay, no, you know what? Let's hear it. Let's hear your justification for this, Franceska. Go ahead.
adding words to the dictionary every year in an effort to promote more inclusive and respectful speech. Last year alone, the OED added microaggressions, mansplain, and a whole host of gender terms like cisgender, agender, and gender fluid to the dictionary. That seems like giving more speech to more people, not less.
So one word that means something so insignificant that a person can't even recognize it, one word that's a sexist term used to silence people, a word that literally means normal, and two made up bullshit words. That's it. That's your justification. Just to put things in perspective, here's a list of words that social justice warriors have called to be banned that I found in just a simple Google search. Lame, retarded, derp, colored, OCD, crazy, tranny, illegal, gyp, exotic, ghetto, fat, female, woman, censorship. Yes, they fucking want to censor the word censorship. Cupcake, man up, and sissy. Oh yeah, you're truly contributing to the richness of the English language. You've added useless Aurelian bullshit and used it to stifle legitimate debate while also limiting the usage of existing words. I'm going to need a rape shower after this. I am. I'm going to need I need a rape shower. I'm done. I can't handle this anymore. It's like, what can you even say to someone this horrible, this festering evil? I'm done. That's it. I can't take any more. The only good thing is that I know that the next video will not top this. Is that I know that whatever feminist social justice warrior I deal with next cannot possibly be as bad as this.
Sup folks, Lacey Green here.